Hey everyone, welcome to week 40. This is day one, this is new theme, and our theme for this week is going to be shapes, but not outer shapes that have to do with contour, but inner shapes, and I think that's going to be like super exciting. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's get started. This is the beginning of a new week, new theme. This is our 201st video, so hopefully we have 200 more of these videos inside of us. We are going to work really, really hard. We will give our best to make sure that we can reach our initial goal, which was 2 years for this project. It is very tough. It is exhausting. We work super hard. But honestly, thank you guys. It wouldn't quite make sense, this project, without all the response, all the support that we've gotten from all of you guys. So honestly, thank you. I know it's just a number. You know, numbers don't really mean anything. They're super abstract in a way. But for us, it's a little signpost. It's a really nice reminder that we have worked really hard and that we still have a ton of hard work to do, but that we're on our way. So again, thank you. So for this week, we have a new theme. And I think I did a painting for the show that I'm going to have at a Bend. And I realized that it had a ton of like very interesting shapes. You know, shapes is this really abstract notion. I remember when I was in drawing class with Sam Martine, and he would say stuff like, it's all about shapes. It's all shapes. And in my mind, I kind of got it, but I really didn't get it. I mean, when we speak about shapes, all we think about, or at least all I thought about at that moment, was like, yeah, but shapes for me are super simple things. I mean, like a circle, triangle, square, rectangle. And when a model is posing right in front of us, Sam taught a life drawing class aside from the illustration class. It doesn't become so obvious what it means to then search for shapes or to hold on to shapes or to interpret through shapes what you were seeing in nature. It was very, very strange. And Sam had a really nice way of making it super clear for us that didn't understand, and he concentrated on contour. Sam was an illustrator during the 60s, 70s, and there was a very clear way of presenting drawing, you know, post-war drawing and drawing during the 60s and 70s. Contour was something that was very, very present. Line quality, line weight, they all had to do with the way in which you would present this journey through the outer limits of a shape, of a form. And that's what Sam taught. It was basically just recognizing the power that contour had to communicate and then trying to slightly push aspects of that contour. And Sam was brilliant at that. I mean, he was probably not the best draftsperson I've ever encountered. No, not at all. But he had a way of explaining things to you that it would make them simple and very, very clear. And for somebody who was starting out like me, who didn't really understand what he meant when he was saying shapes, it was very nice that he could just kind of dumb it down for me and say, okay, this is what I mean. And then he would just take me on this journey, this little kind of vacation through this contour, and would explain the little beats of that contour and how what he was trying to look for was just exciting shapes. What was important when speaking about shapes was also recognizing that they had to be exciting. So now this was even harder for me to understand, because to make use of these very simple shapes, again, circle, square, triangle, rectangle, to interpret very complex things through those very simple shapes, and then to say, make it exciting, you know, make those relationships between those shapes exciting, present them in an exciting way. I was like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? And eventually, I kind of got it. Exciting means that things shouldn't meet at certain points, that if there's a rhythm that is repeating too much, you do things to break it up a little bit. It really has to do with the flow of an image, with how we as observers are going to travel through that image, and with the rhythm that we propose as artists for those observers to go on that journey when they go inside that image and they want to delve into it and travel through it. It's by no means easy. I don't think that these things are easy to teach or easy to understand or easy to put to use. I think they take time, and I really do think it's very, very tough. And for this week, what we're doing is saying, well, What if we don't really concentrate on contour? What if these outer shapes are very, very simple? And what if we just concentrate on the shapes that are inside of that very simple, kind of easy to understand shape that would be the outer shape? Because a lot of what Sam taught me had to rely upon that outer shape, that contour being exciting and complex, full of like different shapes, different angles. There's a ton of energy when you're able to successfully put together a choreography of all those shapes, and they can, in the end, configure something that you can read. In our case, we had the model, so it would be a human being, doing something. So if it was a guy putting his bike on top of his shoulder, we would have to just bring all those shapes together just so that we can actually speak about the weight of the bike, all these like really amazing shapes that a bike has, together with a body that is holding up all this weight, that is trying to make sense of holding up all this weight. So the mechanics of the body had to actually pronounce themselves, had to manifest themselves through that contour and through those shapes. So it was very, very cool. But what happens if we don't think about things as complex as just a guy holding up a bike? Because those are very complex shapes. If we close our eyes and we imagine somebody putting on top of their shoulder a bike, and we imagine what that kind of looks like, that's a ton of information, a ton of like big shapes, smaller shapes. And if we try to piece that puzzle together, maybe it's a little too complex for us. So initially for me, it was kind of disheartening to think that if it wasn't complicated, I wouldn't be able to speak about shapes. I thought that shapes had to do with, with a ton of information, a ton of variety, and just being able to put all those very complex variables together and communicate this really kind of cool, lively subject matter. But for today, I thought, well, let's see if we really need that. What if we think very abstractly about very simple shapes, and let's see if we concentrate our gaze and concentrate all of our attention in the inside of those shapes, kind of like the entrails of those shapes. And if we concentrate on all the makeup of that bigger shape, that inner makeup of that bigger shape, let's see if we can also speak about something that has energy and movement, and it feels lively and exciting to see, exciting shapes within a very simple shape. So that's why we're calling this week Inner Shapes. Now, we are going to speak about inner shapes, and instead of just showing you guys somebody who just does simple subject matter but paints complex, very exciting shapes in the inside of that subject matter, I thought it'd be best to think about one of the most exciting painters of the latter half of the 20th century. He is the greatest American painter, I feel. My favorite painter is Edwin Dickinson, for sure. Favorite American painter over Sargent, over anyone. My favorite American painter is Edwin Dickinson. That to me is super clear. But I think that the best painter is Edward Hopper. The best American painter by far is Edward Hopper. There's no doubt in my mind. My favorite Hopper painting, it's not in the top 5. You guys already know my top 5. But if I have to think of top 10, this painting is in my top 10 paintings of all time. I absolutely adore this painting. I've told you guys before. It's the Early Sunday Morning painting. To me, it's just simplicity, elegance. It's just beautiful. And it has something that we're going to talk about today, but I'll kind of come around to it. So let me start talking about other paintings of Hopper, and you'll see how we end up with Early Sunday Morning. Even though I think that that's my favorite Hopper painting, there are tons of paintings that you could say, oh my God, this other painting is Hopper's greatest painting. In terms of composition, I think the New York movie painting is just amazing. That's just one of the most beautiful pieces of visual storytelling in all of media, I feel. I think it's a gorgeous painting. And formally, one of the aspects that I love is the fact that there are 4 stages to this painting. So it's one image, but it's actually holding together these 4 stages of the painting, which are kind of vertical beat. And that's going to be the motif for today, just vertical beats, like boom, 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 boom. Because New York movie is just that. I'm going to speak about the fourth. 3 of them are super evident. In the background, we have the movie that's playing. So that's one beat. Then we have the moviegoers, all the people that are watching the movie that's playing. Then we have the movie usher, completely abstracted. And she is in another place, in another world. So we could actually speak even about like an inner fifth beat, that's in another dimension. That's whatever she's thinking about. Her mind is completely somewhere else. And that is an absolutely beautiful thing that Hopper could speak about in his paintings. So we have the movie, the moviegoers, the usher, and the fourth one for me is actually the threshold. For me, that column that actually separates those 2 spaces, the theater from the hall where the usher is actually very, very important. And it's actually as important as all these other places where things are alive, where things are actually happening. For me, it's as important as those other stages. So we have those vertical beats that are very, very significant. And actually, they all speak about very different worlds. Some of them may speak about movement or may speak about our senses or even about the nature of being static, but they are all equally as important. So again, they're 4 very, very distinct beats. And the wonderful thing is that the narrative is what brings them all together. I don't know why people are so scared of a word like narrative nowadays when referring to painting. If you really think about it, this painting, without its clear attempt to tell a story, a very open-ended story at that, but still, this is pure visual storytelling. If it wasn't for that narrative that's underneath that image, it wouldn't hold together. The painting would just be completely broken. Those beats would feel very, very separate. So again, with New York movie, Hopper is an absolute genius. He takes something that is incredibly complex and he is able to tell a story through it, even though it is terribly hard. It's terribly difficult to do what he does in here, which is actually just break the picture plane in so many instances, and to be able to hold them all together in the end, it's just genius. That's not an easy thing to do at all. So obviously this painting is chock full of very exciting shapes. That's what makes the traversal of the painting very, very exciting. So he's able to use those shapes and color and light in order to show us the way, show us as observers how we're supposed to travel through this image. Sometimes there are much more simple paintings, like the house by the railroad, which it has this obvious verticality. There's a ton of these vertical beats once again, but there's an emphasis on contour. So that outer shape has to be exciting. It is a joy to just understand this very complex shape that is tangentially growing from this railroad. It's almost like sitting on top. There's always this weird sense of where things meet and where things grow from. Again, he's a genius at doing this. By the way, if I'm speaking about Hopper, in terms of painting, there's nothing weird about a Hopper painting. Nothing. If you guys have seen Hopper paintings in real life, there's nothing strange about it. They almost always read as very simple paintings. I mean, there's nothing to decipher in the way he has painted a painting. It's all there. It's all laid out, very simple. It's like, yep, I put a little bit of this color here, a little bit of this color here, and that's it. That's about it. But it's very clear, light and shadow. His shifts in temperature are very clear also. Like his color choices, there's nothing incredibly strange about it. Nothing. The painting is very, very mellow in a way. You just get it. You just look at it and you're like, yeah, that's painted. There's nothing there to like celebrate. It's just a very intelligently painted painting that is resolved through very, very simple ways. That's it. And I'm not taking anything away from Hopper. Trust me. I think he's one of the best painters in history. But he kind of gives me that feeling when you look at Velázquez sometimes, that you're so mad that it looks so easy, it looks so deceptively easy, that you realize that the core of painting, the core of great painting is never complicated. Is never, ever complicated. We are the ones that impose all the mess that we have up in our heads onto painting, but painting itself, it's actually very, very simple. And I think Hopper is just a perfect proof of that. So House by the Railroad emphasizes contour even though it has some of these vertical beats, like
the vertical beats that are present in gas. This painting is also a very simple painting. It's the repetition of that one shape. That one shape of the pump becomes a constant. The way in which it's presented, because of perspective, is what makes it kind of slightly different and more exciting for us. But in reality, it's just this one shape that's repeating itself 3 times, and it's going back in space. And that red color is actually being echoed then in the post and in the roof in the background. But again, nothing complicated. Nothing at all complicated about, this painting. It's just this beat that repeats itself boom, boom, boom 3 times. And then we see it slowly fade while it just appears in these smaller instances of the painting. So again, this amazing use and knowledge of rhythm that Hopper had in his paintings is the one that's present in Early Sunday Morning. The beats that are in Early Sunday Morning are not like the ones in Night Windows, for example. Night Windows speak about life. They are these 3 moments that are letting us peek into this idea of oneness that's hidden behind these windows, and what we are able to peek into through these partial statements that are presented to us via each of these 3 windows are just these 3 instances of this one life. But that actually speaks about, outside, inside, and how the inside feels extremely, extremely kinetic. Now that I say kinetic, and I'm trying to tie all of these together. This is like a jumbled mess, but I'm trying to tie all of these together. But now that I say kinetic, there are paintings in Hopper that are deceptively simple. And one of the ones that I love is this stairway painting. And the reason that I feel that these are much tougher than what they actually hint at is because there's so much movement that is presented in a sort of static way. Here we have a stairway that's actually almost anchored to the sides of the image plane by all these horizontal marks that are going towards the edge of the painting. And we would think that because they're being anchored by the image plane itself, that it would feel static and heavy. But no, it's not true. It actually feels very kinetic. This is a painting that feels alive. He took a stairway and made it feel almost like twirling. There is this energy to this stairway. You could travel through it and you can actually access those spaces. This is something, again, that I feel it's genius. It's absolute genius. I mean, these are not easy things to do, and he does them in a way that is so almost humble and elegant. There's nothing in those paintings that feels like it's added, there's nothing that feels cheap, that you're putting it there just to grab the attention of the viewer. No, everything that's there is supposed to be there. If it's not there, it's because it wasn't needed. And that's incredible about Hopper. That painting is very energetic, the stairway painting, but Early Sunday Morning presents a very, very different sort of energy, I feel. And it has to do, obviously, with those windows. I mean, those windows, they are not showcasing life, as in the Night Windows painting, but they are speaking about life in a very subtle way. They speak about the sense of place. They speak about inhabiting a space, the shapes of the curtains, of how the windows are slightly open. That is everything that is needed in that painting to showcase that there is a very quiet life, within all those walls, inside those walls, within all those rooms that have those windows. And that to me is insane, to be able to evoke life through something that is quietly presented is just, I don't know, it's insane. For today's painting of Inner Shapes, we looked at Hopper, one of the greatest painters ever in terms of how to present the rhythms that are inherent to shapes and how very, very different those can feel. But I wanted to concentrate and do a very, very simple painting based upon those vertical beats. So all I wanted was just a same kind of repeating pattern, a same repeating beat. All those marks are about the same width, and the things that are changing are value, maybe the hue. Some are slightly more saturated. And the way they kind of crop off at the bottom, some of the sleeves are slightly longer. So that's the moment where I'm able to get like a ton of energy and hopefully a ton of little exciting moments that make all these vertical constants feel a little bit different. And feel, hopefully, these are clothes that are there to be a pattern, but hopefully when presented as very exciting shapes, they feel alive, or they feel like they can hold life. You know, these are clothes that are worn. So you can kind of sense a life outside of them that's in charge of kind of bunching them up and hanging them in this closet. So again, a very simple rectangular shape for today. And inside that very simple shape, we just concentrated on vertical beats, vertical rhythms. And even though there's nothing really exciting about this rectangle in the middle of our painting, inside that rectangle, we can break it up a little bit just so that the painting feels very exciting to read and to traverse. So that was it for today. Again, tough exercise because shapes, composition, speaking about exciting shapes, it's always kind of weird. It's always kind of tough knowing when shapes have to be simple, when shapes have to be complex. I honestly believe some of those things can't really be taught. Some of those things are, you understanding your perception and through shapes communicating what is exciting to you. But we're making an attempt, and maybe the way that we can kind of digest this is by doing, paintings like this where we say, let me start from a very simple shape, circle, triangle, square, rectangle. And within that shape, let me see if I can find excitement. Let me see if I can find enough elements inside that can make that painting be exciting. So that's going to be our journey for this week. We'll see how it goes. It's pretty tough. But we started this week talking about Hopper, and that's pretty amazing. So it's only going to be downhill from here. Let's face it. Join us tomorrow. Remember, Spanish Tuesdays. Tomorrow is Spanish, all Spanish. If you're not understanding anything of Tuesday's videos, it's 2020, the best year, best moment to learn Spanish. So it's an invitation. Spanish Tuesdays are an invitation to learn some Spanish. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.